The Detroit Lions play a very unique brand of football, blending old school physicality with new school finesse, and it leads to the Detroit Lions being a very unique and difficult team to stop. Defensively, in particular, the Detroit Lions have gotten a lot of flack recently and have had a lot of people come out and say that the brand of defense that they play, the physical, hard nosed, tough, gritty football that they play, is dirty. They say that it leads to a significant amount of injuries, and some people go as far to say that the Detroit Lions are a bounty gate 2.0. And today we're going to take a look at it. Today we're going to take a look as objectively as possible at the Detroit Lions defense. Take a look at the injuries that they've actually caused this season, the penalties that they've actually endured, as well as some of the fines, and talk about whether or not the Detroit Lions are truly a dirty football team out for blood, or whether they're just a physical brand of football that not many teams can handle in the age of 2024. So, with that being said, are the Detroit Lions a dirty football team? Do they play a dirty brand of football? And does that brand of football lead to a significant amount of injuries? Well, taking a look at some of the players that are often associated and called dirty by the fans, Kerby Joseph is the poster child for this, especially after his 2023 campaign that unfortunately saw the injuries of both TJ Hawkinson and Tyler Higbee just over a month apart. The fans kind of painted this picture that Kerby Joseph was a dirty player out for kneecaps, right? They say that Kerby Joseph is always diving at players' knees. He's always going for the injury instead of the safe tackle. And while that's not true, that is the picture that has been painted. And unfortunately, Joseph has become the poster child for exactly that. They say Brian Branch is dirty after some of the helmet to helmet contacts that he's had. They say that Jack Campbell's dirty after the hit that he laid on Caleb Williams on Thanksgiving while he was inbounds, still standing. They say that Alex Anzalone plays late and hits out of bounds. They say Aiden Hutchinson is dirty and does a lot of hip drop tackles when he's going for the sack. There are a lot of players on this roster that opposing fans of the Vikings and the Packers and the Bears and the Rams all call dirty football players, and yet the statistics and the numbers wouldn't back that up. Now, I want to take a look at some of the instances that a lot of people look at, right? Tyler Higbee's injury was super unfortunate, right? Kerby Joseph hit him right above the kneecap, and unfortunately, Higbee's leg got caught in the turf, did not move, and it led to a very unfortunate ACL injury. TJ Hawkinson was not stuck in the ground, took a shot, right above the kneecap, and unfortunately, again, had an ACL injury. Last night, Kerby Joseph went for a tackle right at, Tucker Kraft's thigh pad. He avoided the tackle, but everybody clips this post and everybody screenshots it saying, oh, there Kerby Joseph goes again, going after the kneecaps. And of course, the Caleb Williams incident on Thanksgiving is yet another incident of the Detroit Lions being labeled as a dirty football team. I don't think any of these plays are dirty. The Caleb Williams one in particular, Caleb Williams was 3 yards in bounds. He was not going down and even looked like he was going to cut back after planting his foot in the turf and trying to make a cut. Jack Campbell made the right decision. Jack Campbell hit him right in the hip, and Caleb Williams went down awkwardly. And that absolutely sucks. He did take a big shot and looked to be slightly injured or bruised up on the play. And that is unfortunate. That is not good for the Lions. It is not good for Caleb Williams. It is not what the Detroit Lions or the Bears wanted, but it was a clean, legal hit on a runner that is holding the football who is on his feet. There is nothing dirty about it. Last night in the Green Bay game, yeah, that clip of Kerby Joseph going after Tyler Higbee trying to make a big tackle, that went viral on the internet. But what doesn't go viral are the clips of the Packers doing the same thing. The picture of the Packers linebacker doing the same thing to David Montgomery on 3rd and inches to stop the Detroit Lions on what would have been a game-winning conversion at the time. Those tackles happen. Those tackles happen several times a game and many, many times a week. And unfortunately, it seems as though Kerby Joseph is the only one that is held to this standard that he can't tackle that way. Now, I want to talk about what a dirty play is, right? Because I think the term gets thrown around a lot. I think the term dirty football player, dirty tackle, dirty player, those terms get thrown around a lot. I don't think they're necessarily used properly. So, what does dirty actually mean, right? To me, and this can be obviously different for different people, to me, a dirty player or a dirty play is something that happens late after the whistle, is completely unnecessary, plays that get fined by the NFL, plays that get punished by the NFL, and plays after the whistle. Basically, there has to be malice. There has to be malicious intent behind what the player is doing in order for it to be dirty, right? In order for you to say, oh, that player wanted to injure the other team, they would have to have done something well outside of what was necessary and well after the whistle, right? It would not be something within the field of play while the adrenaline's going, while everybody's moving, while you're trying to tackle an NFL athlete. It would have to be a cheap shot. It would have to be something well unnecessary in order for it to be considered a dirty play, at least by me. Now, Kerby Joseph is, again, the poster child for this. His two late hits led to major injuries on TJ Hawkinson and Tyler Higbee, but unfortunately, that's how the NFL wants him to tackle. The TJ Hawkinson and Tyler Higbee injuries, neither one of them was fined by the NFL. Neither one of them saw Kerby Joseph face any kind of backlash or suspension by the league, and neither one was even mentioned by the NFL as a particular play that they felt was unnecessary or destructive. So those two hits are clean. As much as the injuries are super unfortunate, as much as we do not want injuries to occur in the NFL, they happen, right? Cleats get stuck in the ground. Players miss when they are tackling. Bad technique is certainly a problem that Kerby Joseph has had when tackling. He is much more of a hitter than he is a tackler, but that doesn't make him dirty. That makes him a tough football player. That makes him a football player that wants to make an impact. It makes him a football player that's going to go out and he's going to try to bring physicality as often as possible. And when looking at it, Kerby Joseph is 6'1 at 203 pounds. TJ Hawkinson is 6'5, 248, and Tyler Higbee is 6'6, 255 pounds. Kerby Joseph is giving up nearly 50 pounds on these guys. So if he were to tackle up around the shoulder pads, he's getting taken for a ride. If he's not going at the thigh pad in the hip of these tight ends, they're going to break tackles and gain bigger yardage. They're going to go for touchdowns. They're going to go for big plays. And as the safety, the last line of defense, you can't allow that to happen. So what does he do? He tackles exactly how players in the NFL are taught to tackle. And Kerby Joseph is not the only one. The Packers did it several times last night on Thursday Night Football. The every team, every single team does it. The Minnesota Vikings on Twitter, you can go find it, has an entire compilation of their safeties from just last year making the same tackle that Kerby Joseph has made numerous times. The Rams did it several times in the wild card game against the Detroit Lions after the Higbee injury, right? Those things happen, right? Those things occur. And while sometimes injuries happen and sometimes they don't, the outcome of a play does not determine whether it was dirty or not. The injury result on a play does not make it dirty, and the ability for that player to walk away doesn't make it clean. The intention for injury has to be there, and Kerby Joseph does not have the intention for injury. So let's take a look at the Detroit Lions penalties, right? Because if they were truly this dirty football team causing injuries, surely they would have a lot of penalties, right? Well, they do have 81 on the season, which ranks 12th most in the NFL. So for all the people saying that the Lions get an unfair treatment and never have any calls go against them, that simply isn't true. They actually have more penalties than a majority of the NFL. However, their unnecessary roughnesses are three, which is somewhere between and a tied with a number of NFL teams between the about sixth spot and the 17th spot. A lot of teams have three unnecessary roughness penalties, and they have three roughing the passer penalties, which again is right around league average, is tied with 5, 10, 11 teams in the NFL for that. And Kerby Joseph himself has zero penalties on the season. In fact, Kerby Joseph on his career has just 7 penalties overall in 3 years, and one of those penalties is an unnecessary roughness. It was the hit to the head that Justin Jefferson took in Detroit's first matchup in Minnesota a season ago. And while it was, I think, a shoulder to shoulder contact, it looked brutal. Justin Jefferson's head did whip, it did hit the ground, and it was, I think, rightfully called as a penalty, right? That was a vicious hit to a big time receiver. That was a proper call of unnecessary roughness. And a lot of people look at that and say that's dirty as well. It's a hit. He's a safety. He's allowed to hit players, and it was called for a penalty. But overall, the Detroit Lions, for being this dirty football team, are pretty low in unnecessary roughnesses and pretty low in roughing the passer. In fact, last night on Thursday Night Football, Green Bay had more unnecessary roughness penalties than Kerby Joseph has had in his entire career. And there was a lot of plays last night that felt very late after the whistle. There were plays where the Green Bay Packers were just going after Lions players well after the whistle. And somehow people walk away saying that the Detroit Lions are the dirty team while the Green Bay Packers were actually causing conflict and making issues. So if the penalties aren't a large quantity, right? If the Lions aren't committing a large amount of penalties, maybe they're getting away with it. Maybe the NFL and the league is in on letting the Detroit Lions hurt other players. So let's take a look at the injury reports, right? Let's take a look at the last month of football and how many major injuries have been caused by the Detroit Lions. Well, in Thursday Night Football, right here you have two on the defensive side of the ball, as Bullard and Williams both left the game questionable to return, but both of them are safeties. So the defense couldn't have had an impact on those two players. So let's go back to Thanksgiving, right? That dirty hit on Caleb Williams. Surely the Detroit Lions must have knocked somebody out of the game with a season ending injury if they're so dirty. No, no, they didn't. They did not have a single Bears player on the offensive side of the ball miss significant time. And if there was, it might have been an offensive lineman, but no skill players. Caleb Williams didn't miss time. DeAndre Swift didn't miss time. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze did not miss time. So right there, no injuries on Thanksgiving. So let's go back to the Jacksonville game, right? They beat up on Jacksonville. Surely they would have gotten away with one massive hit. No, no players left with injuries during the Jags game from what I can remember, from what I could find. The only one that is maybe controversial is the really late, not late, but the deep shot that they took to Brian Thomas. He took a pretty big shot on the sideline, wasn't penalized, wasn't fined, nothing like that. And I believe Thomas even returned to the game after. So let's go to the Colts game, right? Oh, the Colts in a physical brand of football. Surely somebody must have been hurt. Again, nope. Jonathan Taylor finished the game. Anthony Richardson finished the game. Pittman, Downs, all of these different players, all these skill positions finished the game just fine. No big hits from Kerby Joseph, no season-ending injuries. So the Lions aren't penalized a lot for unnecessary roughness or anything late or unnecessary. The statistics, at least, show that the Detroit Lions do not cause a significant amount of injuries on the field. And even the fines, right? Brian Branch, I believe, has been fined twice this season for hits. I believe one versus the Packers and one versus the Minnesota Vikings. In those hits, both of them were penalized properly. He was fined for both of them. But even then, I don't consider those dirty plays. Those are a safety trying to make a play on the ball, trying to make a big hit in a rivalry game. And yeah, they were late. They were unnecessary hits. They were, not good lined up shots from Brian Branch, and he was penalized and fined justly. Plays that happen during the whistle don't make you a dirty player, especially the two that Brian Branch was fined for. They were both pretty bang bang plays, and neither one was really that egregious as far as like, oh, that was late. Oh, that was really over the top and unnecessary. He was penalized, and I think properly so. But even then, that's not something that you would consider to be dirty if you were an NFL fan. That's just physical football and bad timing. The Detroit Lions defense is physical. They are fast, they are hard hitting, and they are mean. But they are not a dirty football team. They do not cause injuries at a significant rate. They are not penalized at a significant rate for unnecessary roughness or roughing the passer. The Lions play hard. They play physical, and not many teams like it. Quarterbacks don't like to be hit. The Detroit Lions are going to continue to hit them. Wide receivers don't like to be pressed. They don't like to be hit in the open field. The Lions are going to do it anyway. Tight ends don't like to be hit in the thigh pads because, yeah, it can lead to injury. But when you're 50 pounds heavier than the safety and the NFL asks the safety to tackle that way, you don't have much of a choice at that point. The Detroit Lions played to the rule book, to the letter of the law, and they push the boundary of physicality, but they do not break any rules. They do not cause significant amount of injuries, and they are far from a dirty football program. So with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. I wanted to talk about it because it seemed very timely, especially after Thursday night football. With that being said, let me know down in the comments below. Do you think that this team is dirty? And if you are a division rival, Minnesota Viking, Detroit Lion rival in Green Bay Packers, Minnesota, or Chicago, please let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what plays this season make you think that the Detroit Lions are a dirty football team. Because I can't think of any. What major injury has occurred this year that makes the Detroit Lions a dirty football team? I would love to hear your opinions and comments down below as well. So, with that being said, leave your comments. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this topic and whether you think the Lions are a dirty football team. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.